Ever scrolled through social media and wondered how that guy from high school is constantly posting vacation photos from a private villa in the Maldives, while you're celebrating because your checking account finally hit 4 digits? Or maybe you've heard someone throw around terms like the top 1% and wondered if you'd even qualify for the top 90%. Well, today, we're going to tear down that glossy facade and pull back the curtain on what it actually means to be rich. And I guarantee some of these numbers are going to surprise you. My name is Adam, and I spend hundreds of hours analyzing wealth statistics and Islamic economic principles so you don't have to. If you're curious about where you actually stand on the financial ladder and want to understand what separates a truly wealthy Muslim from everyone else, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up being helpful. Let's start with a fact that might blow your mind right off the bat. When most people think about being rich, they imagine private jets, massive mansions, and enough money to buy a small country. But the reality is that being in the top 10% of people by net worth requires far less money than most people think. In fact, you might already be closer than you realize, or you might discover that what you thought was wealthy is actually just getting started. But before we dive into the hard numbers, let me ask you a question. When you picture a rich person, what comes to mind? Is it someone driving a brand new Porsche 911 GT3 with an Audemars Piguet on their wrist? Or is it someone who has achieved absolute freedom and never has to worry about tomorrow? Here is the catch. These two pictures of rich are completely opposite, and understanding that difference is the key to building real wealth. The truth is, most people confuse actual wealth with showing off, what we call Riba in our tradition. They see someone with expensive toys and assume they're rich, while the actual millionaires are driving well-kept 12-year-old Toyotas and living in modest homes. Meanwhile, that guy with the fancy sports car is likely drowning in debt, chasing his nafs, and living paycheck to paycheck just like everyone else. Except his paycheck happens to be bigger, and his financial hole happens to be deeper. Let's start with income, because that's usually what people argue about first when discussing who's rich and who's not. The median household income in America now sits at $84,200 per year. That means half of all households earn more than this, and half earn less. To be in the top 50%, you only need to cross that threshold. Congratulations, you are officially above average. But honestly, that isn't saying much when you consider that roughly $69,500 barely covers basic living expenses in most major cities these days. Moving up the ladder to crack the top 25% of earners, your household needs an annual income of approximately $152,000. Now we're getting somewhere. This is where you get what we call financial breathing room. A family starts to breathe easier. They can actually save money instead of just surviving. The top 10% of earners start at a much higher threshold, $252,000 per year. This is where life gets comfortable, nice neighborhoods, quality halal vacations, and solid savings. But remember, this is household income, meaning two spouses earning $126,000 each puts you in this bracket. But here is an ultimate truth. You could be earning $200,000 a year and still be broke if you are spending $250,000. Income is an amana, a trust from the Almighty, a test. And if you spend it heedlessly, falling into Israf, extravagance, the Barakah, blessing, will vanish. To crack the top 5% of earners, the numbers take a massive leap to $338,000 annually. This is serious opportunity territory. These families can afford almost anything within reason, give their children the best private education, and build substantial wealth if they manage it right. Finally, the top 1% of earners now start at approximately $665,000 per year. At this level, monthly earnings cease to influence daily, routine decisions. But here is a reality check. For individual earners, that threshold is lower, sitting at around $455,000. This means most top 1% households are actually power couples, combining two high incomes. But again, and I cannot stress this enough, high income does not equal wealth. There are people earning 7 figures who are technically broke because they spend 8 figures. On the flip side, There are people with modest incomes who have built massive wealth through sheer discipline and consistently investing in halal assets over time. This is why net worth tells a much more accurate story about who is actually rich and who is just pretending. Net worth is simple. It's what you own minus what you owe. Add up the value of everything you have, real estate, business equity, gold, halal stocks, and subtract all your debts. Dane. What is left is your true financial position. And here, Islam gives a firm ultimatum. Debt is not a clever financial tool. It is a heavy burden that you should desperately try to eliminate. And debt with interest, Riba, is an absolute red line, a direct war against the laws of the Creator, stripping your wealth of any barakah. The median net worth for American households sits at about $195,000. But inflation is mercilessly burning through the purchasing power of that money. Think about this for a moment. Half of all households under the age of 35 have a net worth below $38,500. That is barely the price of a standard family crossover, let alone a down payment on a house in a decent city. To reach the top 50% by net worth, you need to own assets, clear of debt, worth more than that $195,000 median. The top 25% of households starts at approximately $662,000. This is where real, basic security begins. They usually own their homes, have substantial halal investment portfolios, and could weather a major storm without going broke. Breaking into the top 10% requires a net worth of approximately $1.95 million. Now we are talking about serious wealth. At this stage, your assets start generating returns that beat inflation. Your money works for you through real business partnerships. And here, a crucial Islamic economic law kicks in. Your idle capital becomes subject to the obligatory, purifying alms, zakat, at 2.5% per year. This is the ultimate economic driver of Islam. To prevent zakat from eroding your savings year after year, you are compelled to put that money to work, investing it into the real economy, creating value for society. The top 5% of households have at least $3.85 million, wealth that can last for generations. And to join the elite top 1%, you now need a net worth of at least $11.95 million to $13.95 million. This is where money becomes almost abstract. The difference between the top 10% and the top 1% is a staggering $10 million gap. That is not just a step up, it's an entirely different financial universe. But what does life actually look like at these levels? Because dry numbers don't tell the whole story. When you're in that bottom 50% by net worth, you are living in financial survival mode. Every unexpected car breakdown or doctor's visit is a potential disaster where you have to choose between fixing your vehicle or paying rent. You aren't building wealth, you're just trying not to drown. Moving into the top 50% feels like you can finally breathe. You have a small emergency fund, you aren't constantly stressed about every dollar, but you're still entirely dependent on your job. Lose your contract, and you've got maybe a few months before things get terrifying. The top 25% is where financial stress fades into the background. You own a home, have your first halal investments. You aren't just treading water anymore, you are swimming with confidence. But the most important shift occurs when you jump from the top 25% to the top 10%. And it's not just about the volume of money, it's about its nature. These households aren't just saving the leftovers of their paychecks. They are generating profit from their investments through real trade, tijara. Their money is active in halal businesses, creating a stream of distributed profits. They own shares in companies, undervalued real estate rented out according to Sharia principles, and they think strategically. At the top 5% level, this autonomy is absolute. Investments completely cover the family's lifestyle. A Muslim at this level might still work or run a business, but they do it out of passion and a desire to create value for the ummah, not for survival. Their wealth has become self-sustaining. And in the top 1%, people have completely broken the link between time and money. Their wealth grows faster than they can physically spend it. They aren't thinking about retirement. They are thinking about legacy, structuring waqfs and sadaqah jariyah systems so that their wealth continues to benefit society and earn them eternal reward long after they leave this world. Now, here's something that's going to mess with your head. The difference in lifestyle between someone earning $50,000 and $200,000 is obvious. Better house, newer car, fancier vacations. But the difference in lifestyle between someone worth $2 million and someone worth $20 million is surprisingly subtle. Both families live in nice homes, drive luxury cars, and send their kids to great schools. Sure, the $20 million family might have a slightly larger home or take slightly more exotic trips, but their day-to-day lives are remarkably similar. The real difference isn't in what they buy, it's in their relationship with money itself. The $2 million family still actively manages their finances. They check their budget, analyze halal stock markets, and plan major purchases. The $20 million family has completely transcended routine financial decisions. They don't think about expenses because almost any daily purchase is mathematically insignificant to them. This is why lifestyle inflation is a mental trap fueled by our nafs. People believe that earning more will bring happiness, but without spiritual control, expenses simply expand to match income. The guy making $50,000 dreams of $100,000, believing it will solve everything. Once he gets $100,000, he realizes he needs $200,000. At $200,000, he sets his sights on $500,000. This is classic Israf, extravagance. Meanwhile, a person who understands true contentment, qana'ah, can continue to live modestly on that original $50,000, but invest the difference in halal assets for 20 years. Their net worth grows to 7 figures, while their life remains peaceful and blessed. They've achieved actual independence, while everyone else has been chasing its illusion. This brings us to one of the most critical concepts, the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is an income level. Wealthy is a net worth level. You can have a massive income and still be broke, spending every dime to maintain the illusion of luxury. And you can be truly wealthy on a modest income if you've spent years building real assets. This perfectly aligns with the famous statement of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Wealth is not in having vast riches, but wealth is the wealth of the soul. True wealth is self-sufficiency, zud, moderation, a mindful relationship with blessings, and the discipline to live below your means, even when your means seem limitless. Moving to each successive tier isn't just about earning more money, it's about making fundamentally different financial decisions. The families in the top 10% aren't just working harder, they do completely different things with their money. They invest in appreciating halal assets, legally optimize taxes, and completely avoid consumer debt. If they need financing for real estate, they use interest-free partnership models like murabaha or ijara. They draw a clear line between permissible investing and high-risk gambling or speculation, maysir and gharar, which are forbidden in Sharia. The top 5% take this even further. They don't just buy ready-made financial instruments, they create them, launching businesses on partnership models, musharakah, investing in physical real estate, and diversifying income streams so they don't depend on one another. And the top 1% build autonomous, self-regulating business systems that generate income regardless of their personal involvement. Here lies the golden rule. The strategies that work at one level are completely useless at the next. Strict budgeting and saving on coffee, which help you get out of debt and stack your first $50,000, will never get you to the top 10%. Financial advice often feels contradictory because it is meant for different levels. If you're in the bottom 50%, your main focus is clearing all debt and building an emergency fund. If you're in the top 25%, it's time to actively learn halal market investing and commercial real estate. If you're in the top 10%, you should be thinking about tax optimization, purification of wealth, and alternative partnership ventures. Most people get stuck because they try to climb Mount Everest with gear designed for a weekend hill walk. The person who mastered budgeting often doesn't know how to take calculated risks and invest. The entrepreneur who built $1 million business might be clueless about long-term wealth preservation. The median household will never reach the top 10% by net worth. Not because they can't earn enough, but because they never learn the rules of building blessed capital. They spend their entire careers optimizing income instead of net worth. Think of two Muslims who both earn the exact same income of $100,000 per year for their entire careers. One retires with a net worth of $3 million, while the other finishes with just $300,000. Same income, completely different outcomes. The difference isn't luck, it's understanding the laws of halal compound growth. The first understood that every dollar earned is a seed that can grow into a fruit-bearing tree. He avoided interest-bearing debt, resisted Israf, and invested in things that carry Barakah. The second treated his income like a spending limit, buying depreciating things that constantly required maintenance. As your wealth climbs, your relationship with money fundamentally changes. At the survival level, money is security, a shield against disaster. At the middle-class level, money is options: where to live, what to drive, where to vacation. But when you reach true, halal wealth, money becomes a tool for influence and creation. You stop thinking about consumption. You think about the legacy you will leave in this world, how many jobs you can create, what social projects you can launch, and how much value your waqf will bring to future generations. This shift in perspective is the ultimate barrier for most. People are so focused on what money can buy today that they rob themselves of what that money could become tomorrow by the will of the Almighty. Now you know the real picture of wealth. Whether you're celebrating your first modest balance or planning major investments, the rules are the same. The choice is yours. Keep chasing the appearance of wealth while catering to your nafs, or start building a real, blessed legacy.